So something I've always been curious about is how come we always seem to think of the perfect line, the most witty, hilarious, just best thing we could have said in the moment in a conversation, but 2 hours after the conversation is already finished. That's when the best thing, the best possible line seems to come to us, not in the moment, but absolutely ages after. Because I think this is a problem that a lot of people will relate to. In the moment, not being able to as much as you're racking your brain, you're just not able to find the right words. Let's say this is a bit of a stressful or socially demanding situation. Maybe it's some people you're trying to impress. Maybe it's someone you find attractive. And the right words just don't come to you. It's like you've got brain fog. You're not able to pull out any of the things you would usually be able to say. And instead it kind of feels quite forced. You're saying kind of weird things, or you're jumping from one topic to another in a way that feels kind of random. You're just not able to relax. I guess a good example of this, because it's not just face to face. This happens to me when I've been on dating apps. A girl will text me and suddenly this pressure starts to kick in. Let's call it the pressure to be interesting. Because this is not something I'd usually have, but on a dating app, there's kind of a pressure to hold the other person's attention. You think, if I fuck this up, they're never going to talk to me again. But that pressure just causes this anxious tension to run through my body. And I can't really think of what to say, but at the same time, I kind of feel like I need to reply quickly. I feel like I need to force it, because otherwise I am going to lose her attention. And again, I end up saying something which I'm not particularly happy about. And then 2 hours later, I think of something that would have been really funny to say, something which would have just made me out to be the most intelligent, witty, at least in my mind. This would have been the best thing to say. But by then it might already be too late. So I wanted to talk about why this happens, because this has been quite an interesting thing to learn about for me. And to give you the short answer, it's because we're in fight or flight mode. And being in fight or flight mode is completely incompatible with your ability to think clearly and access all of the stories, humour and natural charisma that you possess, because it feels like you're in danger. So that's a short explanation. But I also want to talk about in this video is I want to prove to you that when your mind and nervous system is regulated, you'll never struggle what to say. You'll never be lost for words. You'll never be fixated on the absence of a perfect thing to say, because everything will just feel right. So we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. So first of all, I want you to imagine a scenario in which, let's say you're being hunted by a wild animal. Let's say there's a lion or something hunting you and you're aware of it. It's kind of a weird thing to talk about, but imagine the feelings that would be running through your body. Adrenaline, this hypervigilance. You're kind of sensing that danger from every angle. You're on your guard. And you're ready to either fight or flight. You've got that fight or flight response. All you can think about is survival. Let's then say I asked you to, let's try and think of an example. Think of something funny. Think of your best joke. Something which you haven't rehearsed to the point where you're going to be able to pull it out at any moment. Or maybe even that. If in that moment when you're feeling this danger, if I asked you to think of a joke, you probably wouldn't be able to think of that in the moment, would you? Or it'd be very, very fucking difficult. And that's actually because your nervous system, when it perceives danger, when it perceives threat around you, you're not supposed to be funny. You're not supposed to be able to think of something witty. You're not supposed to be able to access your memories or your best stories or the things that you might put out in a conversation. Because it's rerouted everything from your brain, which is responsible for that part of it, socializing, away from this area of your brain and into the part which is just focused on keeping you alive. the things I mentioned, hypervigilance, being on guard, being ready to just run away. And that's your brain and nervous system functioning correctly. That's your body doing its job to keep yourself alive, but that's there for a reason. It's shutting off all of your creativity centers, your ability to think clearly, because all it can focus on is your survival. Now, yeah, that's all well and good, but how is it even relevant? Well, something one of my mentors taught me is, and this has been like really, really good in clearing up like a lot of what I perceive as me just being an awkward freak. Like, why am I acting so awkward? Why can't I think of what to say? It's because in the modern era, your brain cannot distinguish between like, I don't know, like you being hunted by a lion and the danger presented by that, and the judgment that you believe you're about to face by walking up on stage and giving a speech. One represents like a physical form of danger, one represents like emotional danger. But the thing is, your nervous system can't tell the difference between these two forms of danger. Like, your life is not literally at risk, but the embarrassment that you might face if you go on stage and mess up your words and people laugh, your brain literally perceives that as bad as like the threat of being hunted by like a lion. Like, so this is the first thing. Our brain cannot distinguish between physical and emotional danger. And like, you probably admit that sometimes like physical pain isn't as bad as emotional pain. Like if I ask people like, would you prefer to like fall down and cut your knee? Would you prefer the pain of that to the pain of like, let's say like going through your first real breakup? Most people will probably say like cutting their knee, like that's not as bad, that's temporary, that doesn't last as long. But this emotional pain can leave some like serious scars to the point where your nervous system decides, I never want to feel this again. So let's explain more like what's happening in the context of like, I can't remember what to say, because you're probably like getting where I'm going with this. But let's say, I'll use the example of sometimes the way our nervous system responds to danger is quite complicated. As in, maybe on some level it's like survival. Like if you come face to face with a lion, you're probably going to know what to do. You're probably going to like know this is like a fight or flight situation. But oftentimes, the danger we perceive in our environment is some form of like emotional memory. That's the only way I can describe it. It's like a memory of some past pain that we've experienced. And the idea of feeling this pain again is like very unpleasant. So anything that even reminds us of this, we kind of go into like overdrive and we look to protect ourselves from feeling that pain again. It's kind of like if you were to put your hand on a hot stove when you were a kid and you got badly burnt. You're not going to do it again because you remember that pain. But sometimes what can happen is just looking at that stove can be enough to make you feel that like phantom pain. Like you can literally like remember the pain. You might like imagine the pain in that moment just by looking at the stove because it's triggering that emotional memory. So how this applies to like social dynamics and stressful social situations where you're talking to people who you admire or you're attracted to. Like me texting this girl and being afraid to kind of like say the wrong thing, but equally that adds to the pressure. I'm sensing some form of danger here, but this is me making a prediction. I'm predicting that if I say the wrong thing, whatever that is, then this girl is not going to be interested in me anymore. But I don't know that. I don't know her well enough to predict that. So it's a prediction based on something, but it's not the present. So what's it probably based on? It's going to be based on the past of the same thing happening to me, of me experiencing this like soft rejection on a dating app. And I'm holding on to the memory of that pain. So I'm sensing danger. My body's trying to protect me from something by putting me in that fight or flight mode where I can't think properly. It's trying to protect me from something which may or may not happen, but my body believes, okay, even if it doesn't happen, I've still kept myself safe. And that stops me from being able to think of like, and pull like all my stories, my memories, the things I would use in a conversation, my best humor, all of that's shut down. So you probably see where I'm going with this. Now we kind of understand why that happens. But on the flip side, in the absence of that danger, you're able to just think clearly, to access that natural charisma that all of us hold. And let me prove this to you. Because when you're around your closest friends, like let's say when you're with your best friend, someone you feel so comfortable around, have you ever once like questioned your ability to like socialize and talk? Have you ever worried about running out of things to say? Has that thought even crossed your mind? Like, I don't know where I'm going to take this conversation next. I need to start preparing conversation topics in advance. No, the conversation is just flowing from one topic to another. You feel safe. You're probably more unfiltered. You're not afraid to like say the craziest things because you feel safe and comfortable and you feel an absence of danger. So what it comes down to, this issue of you forgetting what to say and then remembering it 2 hours later when your nervous system has calmed down, that is deliberate. That's your body trying to keep you alive because it's detecting some form of danger in your environment. This is what it is. So in terms of how we kind of resolve this problem, there's many, many ways we can go about it. But I guess step one is kind of just, it involves like accepting whatever outcome. Like if we're already looking at this as like a problem in itself, like I never know what to say, or I can't say the right thing, or you're worried about some kind of consequence of saying the wrong thing, we're kind of admitting to ourselves that like there is like a right thing we could say. You know, oftentimes I think some things we could say could be better than others, but we're kind of focusing on like a negative outcome here, aren't we? Like something bad might happen to me if I say this particular thing, when really the bar shouldn't really be that high. And this is going to sound like a bit easier said than done, but it's like really like everything we say is valuable. Like there's no person in the world who should really be like making us question whether we're okay to like speak our mind. And I know that sounds kind of like a bit of a frustrating solution, but this is like step one. This is like accepting anything that could possibly happen. Accepting like, okay, things might not always go our way, but we'll be okay. And just saying anything is good enough. It's not going to be perfect. It sounds like a little bit like counterintuitive, but accepting that anything is good enough is what will relieve the pressure. Like at the moment, our main issue is that like danger that we're sensing in our environment. That's what's clogging up our thoughts. But accepting that like I'm going to be okay regardless, that is what will bring down like the level of danger. So that's like one idea I want to introduce to you. I've made many videos on this on the past. If you want to go and check out other videos on my channel for like maybe more like intuitive ways to fix this problem. But at the moment I am offering one-on-one free coaching. If you want to discuss this further, book through the link in the description. And I'm very happy to see if I can help you with this. But yeah, take care for now, and I'll see you in the next one.